Welcome to Gold Derby. I'm senior editor Denton Davidson here with Laura McGann, director of The Deepest Breath, a heart-pounding documentary about a champion freediver and a safety expert who seemed destined to find each other in this life-threatening extreme sport. Laura, I was not that aware of freediving and how competitive this was. You reveal so much that was all new to me. How did you become aware of Alessia and this world record freediver and Steven, without giving too much away, because there are twists and turns that shocked me at the end. So I don't want to spoil it for everyone.
Well, I didn't know anything about it either until quite recently when we started to make this film. I suppose I read about Stephen and Alessia in 2017, and I didn't know anything about freediving. So I did have to Google what is freediving. And I spent the afternoon just in this rabbit hole of watching videos of people holding their breath underwater for what felt like half the day without the urge to breathe. I just thought, I was immediately thought like, this would look incredible on the big screen. Like, how do we get this into the cinema, and how do we make a film about this? And then getting to know more about what happened with Stephen and Alessia, and learning about the world, the connection between the people involved and the sea, and this incredible meditative sport that is also quite dangerous and also massively competitive. And there's this whole world going on that we knew nothing about, and is fascinating, and it's dramatic, and is full of heart and soul and a lot of love. So it was one of those things where you kind of pull at a thread, and this magical line just appeared, and this beautiful story. So that's kind of how it started.
As you began researching this and interviewing people, were you able to understand why they do this? Because from an outsider like myself, it's insanity. Like these people black out and need to be resuscitated like it's an everyday occurrence. You can damage your lungs if you don't die and be on oxygen at the age of 40. I mean, did you get a sense of where that comes from, where that adventure comes from, and that desire to risk their lives every day?
Well, first of all, to say, you know, people, freedivers, I don't think they feel like they're risking their lives every day. Maybe we're risking our lives every day by crossing the road, but like that aside, there's a real high involved. There's a beautiful meditative falling. In the film they talk about free fall, which is when you get down to 30 meters, the pressure above you pushes you down, and it's just like you're falling to the bottom of the sea. It's kind of like flying. So there's different, also, like there's the whole mental side of it where you put your head in the water, and all of the shit from daily life, all the niggly things, all that busyness in your head just disappears, and it's quiet, and like that is appealing. So there's a list as long as my arm that could tell you, why they do it. And we go into it in the film, but really it's just something soulful. It's something in that's just in these people in the film, and it's their home, and the sea is Alessia's home, and it always has been.
We see this incredible footage of Alessia and Stephen in their own lives. And how difficult was it to go through that footage? How did you obtain the footage, first of all? And then how do you decide through all of these hours of footage how to insert it into the film to properly tell the narrative that you're looking for?
Well, I wanted from the very start, I knew that I wanted to tell the story. I wanted it to be in the moment. I didn't want it to be kind of like retrospectively looking back. I wanted the people to be telling the story in the moment, and I wanted to see as much of it happen on the screen in the frame as possible. So we went about it in a funny way where we spoke to everybody. We figured out what the story was. Because this wasn't like an article that was written that we went and made the film. Like, it was very much finding the story, and finding how Alessia and Stephen's stories kind of like spoke to one another even before they met, as they're going towards the meeting point. And I suppose so that's how we figured out the story first, and then we said, right, is there any archive out there? to cover this amazing moment and this amazing moment. So it was very much a scene-based approach as well. So for example, when Stephen saves Alexei Molchanov, we said, look, this is an incredible story. Was there anybody there with a camera? And someone was like, oh, I'm sure there was a camera. And like that again, you know, who's the organizer, right? It was Stavros, right? Does anybody know? And this is like footage that's 15 years old. God, does Stavros still have the hard drive? And it was and like it was kind of incredible how every route that we went down looking for footage, it existed. And another treasure trove of it existed. And getting to sit and watch the material then after you've heard this story so many times, you've imagined it in your head, and then you get to press play on the real thing. It was really amazing, really, really amazing. And for every scene, we have the material from the day. And then there was sometimes when we'd be missing a particular shot, say like in that Stavros footage where Stephen is rescuing Alexei Molchanov, but he's waiting there because he hasn't come up yet. He's waiting for at 30 meters for like a minute. And there wasn't a shot of anybody. There wasn't a shot of Stephen because nobody films the safety divers. They don't bother. They're all waiting for the main event to arrive. And so that was, we did a little bits of recon where we got a big wide shot of a diver in the middle of the frame. And so we peppered recon in amongst the archive where there wasn't coverage. And this really helped to kind of to have as much of the action on screen in the frame and watch it happen. For the audience, it felt like the right approach.
And you spoke to both Alessi's and Stephen's fathers. It's difficult to watch them talk about their kids who risk their lives, and they're sort of at times watching them dive on video and sort of living through, like hoping their child comes up for the next breath. What was it like talking to the parents of these two?
Well, like it struck me really early on talking about this story. It was like, what's it like for the families? Like to watch them, exactly what you were saying there, like to watch their kid doing that. And I was like, we need to talk to them about this because this is massive for them. And, you know, it could, you know, they go through this massive kind of emotional journey every time they're, you know, Alessia disappears into the darkness of the sea and he has to wait there for a couple of very long minutes. And I just wanted to know, as a human being, I wanted to know, how do you do that over and over again and continue to be a sane person? And how, you know, and the same with Peter, you know, Peter lived for years not knowing, kind of waiting for a phone call. And it's that waiting for a phone call. I was like, how do you, you know, it just really intrigued me. A lot of the things that I do, like in this film and in different films, it's like stuff that I want to know. I want, you know, I feel like the film is an excuse to go and figure out and go into these incredible worlds and figure out how it all works. But one of the things that Peter said was that a really simple thing is that you just learn to live with it.
Wow.
It was like, right.
What I also found interesting is that the safety divers are at just as much risk. I don't necessarily know that I understand why in that sport they're not like in scuba gear. Is that just not in their mentality? They're like, no, we don't do that.
No, that's not the case. So what happens is if you're in scuba gear, you have to come up slowly to decompress.
Okay.
Otherwise, you'll get the bends and you'll hurt yourself. So the reason why the safety divers have to be free divers is that if their diver needs to be brought up ASAP, they need somebody who can bring them up as quick as possible. So they need to be holding their breath. So.
Okay. Can you talk about the cinematography and Tim Craig's work? Because this is not only a thrill ride with archival footage, but there's such beautiful moments of the ocean and the landscape. Talk about his work and what he was able to contribute to this film.
So yeah, me and Tim started to work together really early on this, and first of all, we approached the interviews in a way where we wanted it to feel like everyone was kind of like maybe they'd just gotten out of the sea or the pool, but the sea was just there or the pool was just there, so that it felt like it was in the same world as as the world that they were in the archive, that in the scene that we were in. So we chose some pretty challenging locations for that just kind of had, tons of noise and light changing and all that. And Tim just dealt with it really well. We also worked with Julie Gauthier, and she did a lot of our underwater stuff. And so Tim and Julie kind of came to this, and myself as well. We wanted the underwater and the ocean material to reflect the archive as well, so that it didn't feel like, oh, you're suddenly coming out into this real glossy look, whereas everything else was like really handheld and very much like, amateurly shot. So we filmed in Dahab, in the Blue Hole, both above the surface and under, and then we filmed in Mexico in a cenote out in the sea. And Julie is a freediving cinematographer, so she's holding her breath and she's shooting, and she's free diving for the same reason that the safety divers are free diving, so that she can go up and down with the divers. So we were out in the middle of the sea on a boat, and I had like figurines, a safety, like a scuba diving figurine, a free diving cinematographer figurine, and the other free divers. We'd have to explain what everyone's doing at 30 meters under the water. So we'd all get into the sea, they'd go down, get the shot, everybody free diving, come back up, show me the shot. I'd say, that's brilliant, can you just do it slightly different? And they'd go down again to 30 meters, get the shot, and come back up. It was like having a fleet of dolphins on our team. Like, it was filmmaking like I had never imagined could really exist. So like, as a filmmaker, to have that incredible wealth of archive and beautiful archive to work with, but then also to be able to shoot this underwater film, and then bring it all together, was a really special experience, like one that I'll never forget.
It's such a beautiful, captivating film. Congratulations. You've received 4 Critics' Choice Documentary Awards, including Best Feature. So good luck there. Anyone who hasn't seen the film yet, it's streaming on Netflix. I highly encourage everyone to do so. And Laura, thank you for joining Gold Derby today.
Thanks a million. Lovely chatting to you.